ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our next teaching conversation session. Today, we're going to be talking about content, but specifically content as the product of teaching. So the thing that we're going to be creating, the thing we're going to be putting together for our classroom. Now, we have a special guest with us, Teena Zindel-McWilliams. So I will let Teena introduce herself. So, Teena, go ahead and tell us just a little bit about your job at the college and your role in this learning community.
Hello, everyone. My name is Teena Zindel-McWilliams. I'm the Director of Institutional and Academic Planning. That means that I support deans and faculty and really the entire institution in making sure that the programs and services that we offer fit the accreditors' expectations. So I work both with the affirmation accreditation for the federal government as well as the state, and I work on strategic planning. You'll also hear me referred to as the institutional historian. That's because I've been at Richland for a number of years, and that seems to be an unofficial role that I have. One of the areas that I do work on with faculty and deans, though, is the syllabus, and that's our topic for today.
Well, I am really glad that you brought up, by the way, the college historian, because Richland has been around since, correct me if I'm wrong, 1981?
No, it's been there since 1972.
Oh my, okay,
Yes.
was
That was
1981?
probably before you were born.
Well, a smidge, but unfortunately not as many years as I wish. But there have been a number of people who have built this community that we call this community college. And one of the things that I think we need to take a moment and highlight as people are joining our community as an educator and addressing the needs of our learning community, that we really understand that it is a family environment. And I think you do have a unique perspective to bring to that. So I really want to thank you, not just for all the work that you've done in helping build this community, but helping us welcome the next generation of teachers to this community.
As both in my history as an adjunct faculty member and as a full-time faculty member and in a number of roles through my time, I truly believe and I support the notion that we are a team. And I know that sometimes that sounds trite, but for Richland, that is true. It is difficult for me to step out in the hallway and ask a question that no one can answer or can direct me. And this is probably what's important for you all, is if you have a question and you don't know where to go, find someone, and that person may not know the answer, but that individual will help you figure out where to go to get the answer.
And honestly, that leads right into our discussion of the day, because we're going to be talking about two things here: master syllabus and working syllabus. Whereas master syllabus is going to be something that's college-wide or course-wide, the working syllabus is going to be to a great deal put together by the instructor. But I think the thing that we need to connect this to is those folks that are other adjuncts, those folks that are full-timers, those folks that are deans or support staff or front office staff or student service staff, all of these folks, we're in it together. And so as we build this, this is not something you're solely responsible for. It's something we as a team build. So let's get on into the content. Start talking to me about what is this whole master syllabus idea and what's this whole working syllabus idea?
So we start with the notion of a master syllabus. That's the document that was submitted to a number of organizations like the Illinois Community College Board and others to show that this course has rigor, that it's planned out, that it fills 16 weeks or whatever the parameter of the time frame of the course is, that it has clear objectives, and that it fits in the scope of a program very clearly. Now, that master syllabus is approved, and that's what the faculty use to develop their working syllabus, which is done every semester. So even if you teach in the spring, let's say, you would have to go in and make adjustments for the fall because you're changing the calendar or you're changing something that didn't work the first time you offered the course. I do that all the time. I don't like the order of something. I don't like the reading assignment. So the master syllabus is maintained because that's our guide, but the working syllabus is yours. It is your creation. Within reason. It is your creation as long as you can get to the outcomes and objectives that are listed that have been developed for the course in general and how they fit into a particular program.
So the master thread is kind of that directional guide that weaves all the way through not just the course of Math 098, for example, but also as part of the larger program of study,
Yes.
or to be honest, many programs of study, depending on what kind of course you're teaching, or certifications if it's not a graduation requirement, certification requirements. But all of those, that is our broad guidance for where we're headed versus the working syllabus, which is where are we as a class going to go? Where
Right.
are we as a group of learners going to go? And you're 100% right on that. Working syllabus change is constant. Change is constant. So whereas the master syllabus is consistency, the working syllabus is flexibility.
Right.
And it
But
allows us
I
to
do
get
I
unique.
I do want to stop you though and remind you that in the course of a semester, that syllabus can't change.
It's a really good point. Yes, because this is in essence our contract with our students
Right.
for this is our scope, this is our sequence, these are our goals, this is where we're going. I may adjust learning activities to a degree, but the learning goals don't change.
Right. Right. If the calendar changes, let's say we have to have a day off because of a snow day or something else, then you can adjust that calendar, but you still have to maintain the goals, the objectives that are listed in the syllabus so that a student will know when you get to the end, here's what I've been evaluated on. Here's in a final exam what I'm being evaluated on. And so that when someone comes back and says, well, where did Mary learn this particular skill or this particular concept? We can say, oh, look, in the spring of 2021, Mary took COM 120 and learned about the production of a team report because
Well,
it's right there.
and that's very important because one of our old phrases from back when, and I don't remember when, but start here, go anywhere. These classes that we take as students, they follow us along. So they're transferred to a school or they're part of a certification, and someone can look back on that. And we have to say within this semester in this time frame, as you said, this goal was achieved.
Mhm.
This was assessed. This was a performance on that goal. That does also, by the way, get us into a preview for some of our learning outcomes that we'll be talking about with another one of our teaching conversations. So let's go into some of the specifics of a master syllabus.
Sure. I'm going to share my screen, I hope, with you all. All right. Is that clear? Do I need
That
to?
looks great. And of course, folks, just remember the master syllabus is also included in your course as a reference document. So you guys can go back and take a look at this in detail. And in fact, it's going to be part of one of your turn and discussion activities.
All right. Great. I'm not going to go through every line, but I will point out a couple of highlights for you as we move through the syllabus. It is multiple pages, and I have faculty who say, why does it need to be so long? If you remember what Matt said in the beginning, this is your contract. This is how you are saying to the student, here's what I expect from you, and here's what you should expect from me. So the master syllabus is available in the division office. The administrative assistant, the dean, will be able to provide this for you. What you may also get is a working syllabus from a lead faculty member. So someone who has taught drafting before or an ENGT class, you'll see that master syllabus, but you probably will also see a working syllabus. So just be aware that there are some similarities. If you see the master syllabus, what you will see for it is a notation that says what is included in the working syllabus versus what is included in the master syllabus, or if it absolutely has to be there. So you've got some information here. Please make sure you think about the prerequisites for the course, and somebody I'm sure will talk about that. So much of the information in this box will be transferred to this box for your working syllabus. The course description must match the catalog. So if you have a master syllabus, you cannot change the course description. And you can guess why, because that means you're changing the focus of the course. This is something that we are reviewed on a regular basis. Again, much of this you're going to be able to have right from the master syllabus. List the textbooks, list the ISBN number. The admin assistant can help you with that. An open education resource is something that is a free source, and there are faculty who are working on what is called OER. Don't you love the acronyms in education? OER. So Matt was talking about course objectives and outcomes, program and discipline outcomes, cross-disciplinary outcomes. All of those will be explained to you, I think, in another module, but please remember that they are important. This is what a student will be able to do or demonstrate at the end of the course. Here's how we will measure, because you'll be asked for artifacts that show that we're covering this outcome. So this is included as well. You can copy these directly from the master syllabus and get assistance from the full-time faculty member. And then the cross-disciplinary outcomes. Matt, I see your hand waving.
Yeah, and this is one of those things that you function as an adjunct instructor, and I functioned for nearly 20 years as an adjunct instructor for Richland. And these are those times where we go back to that community of learners and community of teachers, because it is unlikely that you're starting a course as an adjunct faculty member unless it's a very specific CTE type of thing, in which case there's also dean involvement. And so a lot of this material will be given to you, and that's a great thing, because
Yes.
that means you're not responsible for ensuring that these things meet the requirements. Those have been looked over, checked, and ensured that those components that are part of the master syllabus are there in place, and in conjunction with your dean are exactly where you should start building off of.
Right. Because that's the key. Just listing them on the syllabus is not enough. You have to make sure that you are addressing them. How are you looking at, let's say that a course objective is to experience working in a team and producing an oral presentation. All right. Well, that's great, but how are you doing that? Where can I go in your working syllabus to be able to say, oh, here it is? The program and discipline outcomes are again developed by the full-time faculty and some adjuncts. You're going to be able to see whether or not you have it, and then how you're going to address it. Again, that will be a discussion with the dean. The cross-disciplinary outcomes, let me give you just a heads up. These are outcomes that every degree seeking student at Richland Community College should be exposed to at some point in his or her academic journey through the college. So they're going to learn to communicate effectively in writing. They're going to be able to communicate orally effectively. They're going to look at information technology, and they're going to think critically and creatively. You may not cover these in your course specifically. For example, there are courses that do not have writing components. That's perfectly fine. But the expectation is that somewhere in that 2-year journey, or however long it takes for the student to finish the degree, they are going to be exposed to these cross-disciplinary outcomes and be able to figure out a way to master them. So then we have the box here. So again, these will be provided, but you have to start thinking about how you're going to fit them. Don't reinvent the wheel. Look at what the master syllabus says and say, okay, this is how I'm going to do it in my course, because this is how somebody else has done it in his or her course. All right, there are a couple of statements that you'll see that are bolded that must be included, like this one about anonymous student work samples, because we do gather artifacts. That's the jargon that we use, and be able to assess annually these cross-disciplinary outcomes. And you'll hear more about that from the person who talks about outcomes assessment. All right, topical outline calendar. In the master syllabus, it's just going to be the order covered, how much time. So this is where you take the topical outline and you create your working syllabus. This needs to be detailed. Of the grievances that students have, it's that, well, I don't know what I was supposed to do in week 9. Here's where you're going to lay it out. Now, again, you can adjust that. We've got a snow day. This is Illinois after all. But you need to be as clear as possible. Now, this can go here, it can go at the end of the syllabus. That's up to you. Another reason that students become persnickety about the end of the semester is that they don't know how they're going to be evaluated. Please be clear. Assessment methods, grading scale. How do I know if I have enough points to get a B versus an A or a D versus an F? Very clearly needs to be spelled out here. And again, you're going to see some information in the master syllabus, and you have lots of other examples and colleagues who will give you some information about that. And I believe that some of that is also included in Kona's Canvas course that you might be going through that talks about development of that. Attendance policy, this is the minimum. This is copied directly from board policy. And so you will see that you must include this. If you have additional areas of concern for attendance, for example, if a student can't miss a test, then you need to put that in here. If participation in a team presentation is required, what's going to happen if I don't show up? Okay. Of course, there are always ways of being able to have conversations with students, but you need to put in here the bare minimum, which is this college policy. Now, if you're delivering a course online, as many of us are now and will be at least for another semester or two, this is the statement that must be included, the online attendance policy. It's worded differently than the regular attendance policy because it talks about how you are counted as being in a class. So make sure you read this carefully and understand what this means. Classroom procedures are in the working syllabus, not in the master syllabus. Are there specific rules that you have? And again, I would look at and talk to colleagues about what's your cell phone policy? What's your late work policy? Because it can be different. I know people who use their cell phones as part of their classroom activity, and it's great to have it out. And I know other faculty who say no cell phone. I always think about the fact that you can't have them on the floor at Caterpillar, and people need to get used to not having access to their cell phones. And in our time today, that might be a little bit difficult. Human relations policy is there. Core values are in both. Academic integrity policy. Now, the next sections of information talk about classroom technology, responsible use of classroom content, copyright, intellectual property. Make sure you read these and you'll notice that they're all included in the master syllabus and in the working syllabus. And you need to understand what those mean and how it impacts your students. Yeah, go ahead.
And I was going to say that is important to read through because in every contract, there's a two-way street component to this. And so it's more than likely not the student that's going to be likely to violate copyright so much as it is the instructor if we're not very careful.
Yes.
And so understanding that we are held to what's in the master syllabus as well is important because, again, education is relational. The syllabus outlines that relationship.
And we are incorrect if we believe that students understand the academic use of technology. And so some of this information will be brand new to them. For example, not sharing something that you've seen in a classroom exchange on Facebook, or not copying and pasting or sharing your login information. All of that is very critical to making sure that we're not violating others' privacy and it matches the board policy. So it's that whole notion of, does a student really understand academic technology and academic use of technology? For example, thinking that a student can write a 500-word essay on his or her telephone might be a little bit problematic, but you will have students who think that perhaps they'll give that a try. How are you going to help students understand that that may not be the best? There may be far better typers than I, but I sure couldn't do it.
And this is an especially important thing to bring up in our currently changing environment.
Yes.
We are having to adapt and adjust to changes that otherwise in normal times would have taken 12 months, 2 years to make some sort of a large shift. Not only are classrooms changing, policies are changing, requirements are changing, guidance from ICCB, all of these things are changing on a rapid basis. So even as you go through this, I'm finding a couple things, as long as I've been teaching, that I still probably ought to adjust in my own working syllabus this coming spring, because what I did in the summer changed to the fall based on our situation.
Yes.
And it kind of probably ought to change again as I reflect over a few of these elements in the master syllabus.
Right. That is true. Now, I will also tell you that the master syllabus is reviewed and any updates are made every spring. So they're generally not radical changes, but one of the changes that came as a result of everything last spring was an update on this responsible use of classroom content. That's a little bit different language than what you might have seen if you had taught in the spring of 2020, because we have made some adjustments based on what we're seeing from students and behaviors that, you know, not let's arrest them and take them to jail, but it's that privacy concern that students may not be used to, that we have to really make sure that we understand. And that as faculty, we are following as well. You know, what are we posting?
Exactly.
What are we saying? That's really the driver here. You have to be comfortable and understand that what we're doing is really a part of the process and policies of the college. All right, so then there's a section on safety in labs. You'll hear more about Richland Thrive and the whole retention and completion, learning feedback, My Richland, Title IX. So all of these sections are required for the syllabus. We have to be able to check them off. You'll be going through your Title IX training, which is required. You'll be going through your ethics training, which is required. So you'll get used to all of this, but I just wanted to make sure you understood that it is here. We are responsible employees. So this statement, I would just copy directly from the master syllabus into the working syllabus. Then there's a section called support services. And here's where you have some options. You'll see that it's all listed on the master syllabus. Your decision is how much you want to include on the working syllabus. We have created a link that's a live link that is updated regularly. So if someone moves or we have some different information, I would put the link in. You can choose to include everything from pages 5 to page 7 as you wish, or you can pick and choose. There are people who say, oh, well, I don't ever use the Academic Success Center, so I won't include that. That's okay. I would keep the link, though, that would give students the access to that information. So there are phone numbers, there are direct emails, talks about mental health support, the Microsoft Student Advantage. Students have access to Office for free, public safety, online. So all of these, again, are resources for students. You need to be aware of them because you need, if someone has an issue, because one of the lessons that I've learned after being here as an adjunct and as a full-time person since 1982 is the fact that students will tell you all kinds of things that you would really rather not know. But sometimes they do that because they think you are going to be able to offer some help. You can figure out the students who might not have eaten in a couple of days. Information about the pantry, information about the snack center. Keep those in mind. The pantry is still operating right now, as a matter of fact, even though the college is basically closed. You need to be aware of the services that are offered and help students with those connections. Again, you're going to go through here, pardon me while this scrolls, you'll be able to figure out what goes in the working syllabus and what goes in the master syllabus. The key here is asking the question. Your dean will help you, your colleagues in other adjuncts, the full-time faculty who are maybe the lead faculty in a particular discipline. Don't be afraid to ask, because we want to make sure that you get through your semester without issues. And here's the way to do that, and that is to be as clear on your syllabus as possible. Take what you have in the master syllabus and make it work for you in the working syllabus.
And that is great advice, because one of the things that I think we think of as people who have maybe gone to college is, oh, the syllabus, the part I care about is the calendar. Where's the assignments and where's the points? Well, those are important parts of a syllabus, and they're important parts of a working syllabus. But there's all of these other components that are necessary for the broader accountability of the college, but also for, as you mentioned, some of those services that maybe not every student is going to take advantage of, but you as an instructor need to know, or how to maybe connect, as we talked about in our student services component of our teaching conversations, or in our social emotional portion of our teaching conversations. Teaching doesn't simply address academics. Teaching addresses the whole person. And so our syllabus also needs to include components of the whole person. And so that's, I think, something that maybe we broaden our perspective just a little bit about.
One other way perhaps of doing that, I have several colleagues, and Matt knows them as well, who offer a syllabus quiz, who require people to be able to, they have to read through the syllabus and then they have to answer some specific questions. Not a requirement. Maybe it's a 5-point throw off. Maybe it's just a requirement to go on to something else in Canvas. It is a way for students to engage. I also have a colleague who brings the syllabus out at midterm and goes through the syllabus a second time. First, to address calendar changes. Here's where we are. Gosh, we lost these days. Uh, I have done it because I have a course that seems to lose people. I teach business and professional speaking, and for some people, for some reason, people don't like to speak in public. And so it may be an easy course for students to drop. Well, if I've gone from 12 to 6, what are my teams going to look like? What does my calendar look like? But it's also a way to remind students, oh, by the way, we're going to get a learning feedback opportunity. Here's what's happening with Thrive. And so it's a way to refresh not only the students, but you in what the expectations are as you're driving to the end of the course. Again, I have colleagues who do that. Some people don't. They say the syllabus belongs to the students. They need to be adult enough to manage it themselves, and that's fine. Whatever strategy you want to use. But the key is that it really shouldn't just go in a folder somewhere. You need to bring it out once in a while. Your students need to bring it out once in a while to be able to say, okay, remember, here's the grading. Here's what I expect. And in an online course, here's what the attendance should look like.
Attendance is one of those issues that it's easy to understand when we're in person. It's something that shouldn't be that hard to understand in the online environment, but the reality of it is anytime major expectation changes happen, we need to be explicit. We need to communicate those changes. The other thing, as you were talking, I was thinking about this in this online environment, because sometimes we have to talk specifically about that. Our Canvas courses could be arranged in a number of ways, okay? But they should still make reference back. They should still be closely tied back to that working syllabus, which of course is based on the master syllabus. I know for my course, I tend to go and literally label it week 1, week 2, week 3. One change I'm going to make is I'm actually going to put specific dates in those top that are going to change as we adjust. And as you mentioned, we make it halfway through the course and say, took us a little longer to master this than we anticipated. So we're going to shrink or adjust or move and things, but allowing Canvas to reflect
Yes.
that is a great way to ensure that that syllabus, even though maybe we're not looking at it directly, is constantly reflected in our Canvas outline and modules.
So if you ever took a high school history course or a college history course, here's a great example. How much time did you have for the Vietnam War, and how much time did you get for World War II? So your syllabus may have said you're going to spend 2 weeks on the 1960s, 70s, 80s, whatever, and when you get there, you don't have that kind of time. So think about that, because adjustments generally at some point have to be made. And that's okay as long as you're still reaching the objectives and outcomes of the course.
And I think that's the thing that a great place to end is keeping those learning outcomes, which again, we'll talk a little bit about more about keeping those learning outcomes in mind,
Yes.
because those are the big checkpoints. Those are the big goals that we're trying to accomplish. I may lose a presentation or a video or something that I really like to normally get to, but that's a learning element, not a learning goal.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Exactly.
Teena, thank you so much. Is there anything else you feel that our incoming potential adjuncts would really benefit from?
Ask if you don't know. I have saved myself so many times in just throwing out a casual question to my dean or to someone else who I know has taught or is teaching a course to say, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? And then I get oh my gosh, never do that. Or gosh, that's a great idea. Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
We make assumptions and we can't. We have to really make sure we know what we're doing.
If we don't share our own mistakes, we'll all make the same ones.
That's right.
With that in mind, thank you so much for joining me, Teena. This again has been another one of our teaching conversations. And again, you have a bit of a follow-up activity and discussion that goes along with this conversation. But hopefully you've been enlightened into how can we start building that product? How can we start building that content and a few of the required pieces that go into that content. Thank you very much.
Thanks.